Dr. Raymond Pierce had been a cardiac surgeon for 23 years. He'd performed over 4,000 heart surgeries, saved countless lives, and built a reputation as one of the best cardiac surgeons on the East Coast. He was also an arrogant, condescending narcissist who believed his medical degree gave him the right to play God. At 52 years old, Dr. Pierce worked at Riverside Memorial Hospital in Charlotte, North Carolina, a prestigious teaching hospital affiliated with Duke University. He was the chief of cardiothoracic surgery, pulling in over $800,000 a year, and he never let anyone forget it. He drove a Porsche. He wore Rolex watches. He treated nurses like servants and residents like slaves. And he had a particular disdain for patients he deemed unworthy of his time: the poor, the uninsured, and especially people of color. Dr. Pierce had a pattern, though few people knew about it. Over the past 5 years, he'd been investigated 3 times by the hospital's medical review board for refusing to treat minority patients or providing substandard care. Each time, the complaints had been quietly settled, swept under the rug by hospital administration who didn't want to lose their star surgeon. But patterns have a way of catching up with you. And Dr. Raymond Pierce was about to learn that lesson the hardest way possible. Marcus Thompson was 58 years old, a self-made millionaire who'd built a commercial real estate empire from nothing. He'd grown up poor in rural South Carolina, worked his way through community college, and spent 30 years building, buying, and developing properties across the Southeast. He was also the chairman of the Riverside Memorial Hospital Board of Directors, a position he'd held for 3 years. He'd been appointed after donating $10 million to build the hospital's new cancer wing. But most people didn't know that. Marcus kept a low profile. He didn't attend galas or charity events. He didn't give interviews. He preferred to work behind the scenes, quietly shaping hospital policy and holding administrators accountable. Today, Marcus was supposed to be playing golf with his son. It was a beautiful Saturday afternoon in October, and they'd planned to spend the day at the country club, relaxing and catching up. But at 2:47 p.m., while Marcus was on the 7th hole, he felt it. A crushing pain in his chest, a tightness that radiated down his left arm, cold sweat, shortness of breath. He knew immediately what it was. His father had died of a heart attack at 54. His older brother had survived 2 of them. Marcus dropped his golf club and grabbed his chest, stumbling backward. "Dad!" His son Eric rushed over, catching him before he fell. "Dad, what's wrong?" "Heart," Marcus gasped. "Hospital. Now." Eric pulled out his phone, calling 911, but Marcus shook his head. "No time. Drive me. Riverside. 5 minutes." Eric helped his father into the golf cart, then into the car. He drove like a maniac, running red lights, honking at traffic, pulling into the Riverside Memorial emergency entrance in exactly 6 minutes. Marcus stumbled out of the car, his hand still clutching his chest. Eric rushed to his side, helping him through the automatic doors into the ER. "Help!" Eric shouted. "My father's having a heart attack!" A triage nurse looked up, immediately grabbing a wheelchair and rushing over. "Sir, can you tell me what you're experiencing?" "Chest pain," Marcus said through gritted teeth. "Left arm sweating, classic MI symptoms." The nurse's eyes widened. Most patients didn't know the medical term for heart attack. "How long have you had symptoms?" 8 minutes. "Get him into trauma 2, the nurse barked at a medical assistant. "Page cardiology, possible STEMI." Marcus was wheeled into a trauma bay, where nurses immediately began hooking him up to monitors. Blood pressure cuff, pulse oximeter, EKG leads on his chest. "Sir, I'm going to start an IV," a young nurse said, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. Marcus nodded, trying to control his breathing. The pain was getting worse. It felt like an elephant sitting on his chest. The EKG machine started beeping, printing out a strip of paper. The nurse looked at it, her face going pale. "ST elevation. This is a STEMI. Where's the cardiologist?" "Dr. Pierce is on call," another nurse said. "Page him stat." 5 minutes later, Dr. Raymond Pierce walked into the trauma bay. He was wearing golf clothes, a polo shirt, khakis, and expensive loafers. He'd been at the same country club as Marcus, playing on a different course, when he'd gotten the page. He was annoyed. It was his day off, and he'd specifically told the residents not to page him unless it was life-threatening. He looked at the patient on the gurney, a black man in his late 50s, wearing a sweaty golf shirt, clutching his chest. Dr. Pierce's expression immediately shifted from annoyed to dismissive. "What do we have?" he asked the nurse, not looking at Marcus. 58-year-old male, acute chest pain, ST elevation on EKG, consistent with anterior STEMI. BP is 160/95, heart rate 110. He's been symptomatic for about 15 minutes. Dr. Pierce glanced at the EKG strip, then at Marcus. "Has he been drinking?" "What?" The nurse looked confused. "Alcohol. Has he been drinking? He smells like a distillery." Marcus's son Eric, standing in the corner, stepped forward. "He hasn't been drinking. We were playing golf." "Golf?" Dr. Pierce raised an eyebrow, his tone dripping with skepticism. "At which course?" "Oakmont," Eric said. "What does that have to do with anything? He needs help." Dr. Pierce ignored him, turning back to the nurse. "Did you run a tox screen?" "No, doctor. The EKG clearly shows—" "I know what an EKG shows," Dr. Pierce snapped. "I also know that chest pain can be caused by a dozen different things. Anxiety, indigestion, drug use." Marcus looked up at Dr. Pierce, pain etched across his face. "Doctor, I'm having a heart attack. I need intervention." "You need to calm down," Dr. Pierce said dismissively. "You're probably just having a panic attack, maybe indigestion. Did you eat something spicy?" "I know what a heart attack feels like," Marcus gasped. "Run the tests. Troponin, cardiac enzymes, cath lab." Dr. Pierce's eyes narrowed. "Are you trying to tell me how to do my job?" "I'm trying to stay alive." Dr. Pierce looked at the nurse. "Give him 4 milligrams of morphine and 2 milligrams of Ativan. He's anxious, probably a panic attack. We'll observe him for an hour and send him home." "Doctor," the nurse said carefully, "the EKG shows clear ST elevation. His troponin is elevated. This is a STEMI. He needs the cath lab." "I'll decide what he needs," Dr. Pierce said coldly. "Morphine and Ativan. Now." The nurse hesitated, looking at Marcus, whose face was turning gray. "Doctor, I really think— Are you questioning my medical judgment?" Dr. Pierce stepped closer to the nurse, his voice low and threatening. "Because if you are, I can have you written up for insubordination." The nurse's face flushed. She looked at Marcus one more time, then nodded. "Yes, doctor." As she prepared the medication, Marcus reached out, grabbing her wrist weakly. "Don't. Call someone else. Another cardiologist." "I'm the only cardiologist on call," Dr. Pierce said. "And I'm telling you, you're fine. This is anxiety. You people always think every little ache and pain is a heart attack." "You people." Eric's hands clenched into fists. "What did you just say?" Dr. Pierce turned to him, his expression condescending. "Your father is experiencing a panic attack, likely brought on by stress or substance use. We see this all the time in the ER. People come in demanding tests, demanding drugs, thinking they're dying when they're just— My father is the chairman of this hospital's board of directors," Eric said, his voice shaking with rage. "And you just refuse to treat him because of the color of his skin." Dr. Pierce's face went pale for a moment, but he quickly recovered, laughing dismissively. "The board chairman? Sure he is. And I'm the Pope. Look, I don't have time for this. Give him the morphine and Ativan, observe him for an hour, and discharge him." "I'm not leaving," Marcus said, his voice barely a whisper. "Until someone treats me." "Then you'll be waiting a long time," Dr. Pierce said, turning to walk out. "Because I'm not activating the cath lab for a panic attack." He walked out of the trauma bay, leaving Marcus on the gurney, his heart literally dying in his chest. The nurse stood frozen, torn between following the doctor's orders and doing what she knew was right. Eric pulled out his phone. "I'm calling someone. Who's above him?" Marcus shook his head weakly. "No time, just get me to another hospital." "Sir, you can't move him," the nurse said. "If this is a heart attack, transporting him could—" "Then do something!" Eric shouted. The nurse made a decision. She grabbed her phone and called the nursing supervisor. "This is Sarah in Trauma 2. I need another cardiologist stat. Dr. Pierce refused to treat a patient with a clear STEMI. The patient is coding." As if on cue, the monitor started alarming. Marcus's heart rhythm was deteriorating. Ventricular tachycardia. "He's going into VTAC!" the nurse shouted. 2 more nurses rushed into the room. Eric was pushed back against the wall, watching in horror as his father's body convulsed on the gurney. "Charging to 200, one nurse said, grabbing the defibrillator paddles. "Clear!" Marcus's body arched off the table as the shock hit him. The monitor showed a flat line for 2 seconds, then a weak, irregular rhythm. "We've got a pulse. It's weak, but it's there." "Get him to the cath lab." The nursing supervisor had arrived, taking charge. "Now! I don't care what Dr. Pierce said." "He'll have our jobs," one of the nurses said. "Then he'll have our jobs. But I'm not letting this man die because Pierce is a racist piece of shit. Move!" Chapter 1. The surgery. Marcus was rushed to the cardiac catheterization lab, where a different cardiologist, Dr. Amanda Chen, a brilliant young interventional cardiologist who'd been in the hospital cafeteria when the code was called, was already scrubbing in. She'd heard about what happened. She'd heard that Dr. Pierce had refused to treat a patient, and she was furious. Dr. Chen had complained about Dr. Pierce before, about his treatment of minority patients, about his God complex, about his refusal to listen to residents and nurses. But like everyone else, she'd been ignored. Not this time. She worked quickly, inserting a catheter into Marcus's femoral artery and threading it up to his heart. The angiogram showed exactly what she'd expected: a 95% blockage in his left anterior descending artery, the Widowmaker. If they'd waited another 10 minutes, Marcus would have died. Dr. Chen placed a stent, opening the blocked artery. Marcus's heart rhythm stabilized. His blood pressure improved. The color returned to his face. After 45 minutes, Dr. Chen stepped out of the cath lab, pulling off her mask. Eric rushed toward her. "Is he okay?" "He's alive," Dr. Chen said, "but barely. He had a massive heart attack. If we'd waited any longer to get him to the cath lab, he would have died." "Why did Dr. Pierce refuse to treat him?" Dr. Chen looked at Eric, her expression hard. "Because your father is black, and Dr. Pierce has a pattern of refusing to treat black patients or providing substandard care. The hospital knows about it, administration knows about it, but he's a star surgeon, so they sweep it under the rug." "Not anymore," Eric said, his voice cold. "My father really is the chairman of the board, and when he wakes up, Dr. Pierce is done." Marcus woke up 6 hours later in the cardiac ICU. His chest hurt. His arm hurt. Everything hurt. But he was alive. Eric was sitting beside his bed, his face exhausted but relieved. "Dad, thank God." Marcus's voice was hoarse. "What happened?" "You had a heart attack. Dr. Pierce refused to treat you. He said you were having a panic attack. You almost died. Dr. Chen saved your life." Marcus closed his eyes, the memory flooding back, the pain, the dismissiveness. "You people." "Where's Pierce?" "I don't know, but Dad, when you're better, we're going to—" "Now," Marcus said, trying to sit up. Pain shot through his chest and he gasped. "Dad, you need to rest. Get me a phone and get me The hospital's CEO, now. Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Hospital CEO Victoria Lawson sat in her office, staring at the email that had arrived at 6:43 a.m. It was from Marcus Thompson, the board chairman. The subject line read, "Emergency board meeting required, immediate." The email was brief. "Victoria, I was admitted to Riverside Memorial yesterday with a massive heart attack. Dr. Raymond Pierce refused to treat me, claiming I was having a panic attack despite clear EKG evidence of a STEMI. I nearly died because of his refusal to provide care. I am calling an emergency session of the Board of Directors for Monday at 8 a.m. Dr. Pierce's medical privileges are to be suspended immediately pending investigation. I also want a full review of all patient complaints against Dr. Pierce for the past 10 years. This ends now. Marcus Thompson, Chairman, Board of Directors." Victoria felt her stomach drop. She'd known about Marcus Thompson's position on the board, obviously, but she'd never met him in person. He was notoriously private, conducting most board business remotely. And now he'd nearly died in her hospital because one of her doctors refused to treat him. She immediately called the chief medical officer, Dr. Herbert Klein. "Herb, we have a problem." "I know," Dr. Klein said, his voice tight. "I heard about what happened yesterday. Pierce refused to treat a STEMI patient. The nursing staff is furious. They're threatening to file a formal complaint with the state medical board." "Herb, the patient was Marcus Thompson, our board chairman." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Oh my God. Pierce didn't know who he was, but that doesn't matter. He refused to treat a dying man because he assumed he was drug-seeking or faking. And according to the nurses, he used racially charged language." "This is a disaster," Dr. Klein said. "Pierce has been a problem for years, but he's our best cardiac surgeon. We've been trying to manage him, give him warnings, but—" "We should have fired him years ago," Victoria interrupted. "Now it's too late for damage control. Thompson is calling an emergency board meeting. He wants Pierce's privileges suspended immediately. I'll draft the suspension order. But Victoria, if we suspend Pierce, we lose our top cardiothoracic surgeon. Our surgical volume will drop. Our revenue—" "I don't care about revenue," Victoria shouted. "A man almost died because one of our doctors refused to treat him based on the color of his skin. If that gets out, when that gets out, this hospital will be destroyed. We're suspending Pierce. We're investigating every complaint against him, and we're cooperating fully with whatever Thompson wants." "Understood." Victoria hung up and buried her face in her hands. This was going to be bad. Really bad. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story of justice and accountability, please take a second to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We post powerful stories like this every single week, showing what happens when people abuse their power and face real consequences. Your support keeps these stories coming. Now, let's get back to what happened to Dr. Pierce. Dr. Raymond Pierce was having brunch at his favorite restaurant when his phone rang. It was Dr. Klein. "Raymond, we need to talk." "I'm off today, Herb. Whatever it is can wait until Monday." "No, it can't. The patient you refused to treat yesterday, the one you claimed was having a panic attack, he's Marcus Thompson, chairman of our board of directors." Raymond felt the blood drain from his face. His fork clattered onto his plate. "What?" "He nearly died, Raymond. Dr. Chen had to emergency cath him. He had a 95% blockage. If she'd been 5 minutes later, he'd be dead." I didn't know." "It doesn't matter if you knew who he was," Dr. Klein shouted. "You refused to treat a man having a massive heart attack. You violated every protocol, every standard of care. And according to witnesses, you used racially discriminatory language." "I never—" "Don't lie to me, Raymond. The nurses heard you. You people think every ache is a heart attack. That's what you said." Raymond's hands were shaking. "Herb, I made a clinical judgment call. I thought—" "You didn't think. You made an assumption based on the patient's race, and it nearly cost him his life. Your medical privileges are suspended effective immediately. There's an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning. I suggest you get a lawyer." Suspended? You can't. I just did. Clean out your locker. You're not allowed on hospital property until the investigation is complete. The line went dead. Raymond sat at his table, his expensive brunch forgotten, his entire world collapsing around him. Monday morning, 8 a.m. The Riverside Memorial Hospital boardroom was packed. All 12 members of the board of directors were present, along with CEO Victoria Lawson, CMO Dr. Herbert Klein, the hospital's legal counsel, and the head of human resources. At the head of the table, looking pale but determined, sat Marcus Thompson. His chest still hurt. He was supposed to be on bed rest, but he'd checked himself out of the ICU against medical advice because this meeting was too important to miss. His son Eric sat beside him, ready to help if his father's condition worsened. Dr. Raymond Pierce sat at the opposite end of the table, flanked by his lawyer, a slick corporate attorney named Richard Brennan, who specialized in defending doctors against malpractice claims. "Let's begin," Marcus said, his voice still weak but firm. "I've called this emergency meeting to address a critical incident that occurred on Saturday, October 19th. As most of you know, I was admitted to this hospital with a massive heart attack. I presented with classic STEMI symptoms: crushing chest pain, ST elevation on EKG, elevated cardiac enzymes." He paused, taking a breath. "The on-call cardiologist, Dr. Raymond Pierce, refused to treat me. He claimed I was having a panic attack, possibly due to drug use. He ordered morphine and Ativan, sedatives, instead of activating the cath lab. If not for the intervention of our nursing staff and Dr. Amanda Chen, I would be dead." The board members shifted uncomfortably. Several were hearing these details for the first time. "Mr. Thompson," Dr. Pierce's lawyer interrupted, "my client disputes your characterization of events. Dr. Pierce made a clinical judgment based on the information available to him at the time. He made a racist assumption," Marcus interrupted, his voice rising despite the pain in his chest. "He saw a black man and assumed I was drug-seeking. He ignored clear medical evidence. He used racially charged language, and he nearly killed me." "That's a serious accusation," the lawyer said smoothly. "Do you have proof?" "Yes." Marcus nodded to Eric, who opened a laptop and projected a document onto the screen at the front of the room. It was Dr. Pierce's personnel file. "Over the past 10 years," Marcus continued, "Dr. Pierce has been the subject of 43 formal complaints. 43. Of those, 27 were filed by patients or families of patients of color. The complaints allege refusal to provide care, substandard treatment, racially discriminatory language, and in 3 cases, patient deaths that may have been preventable if Dr. Pierce had provided appropriate care." The board members stared at the screen in shock. 43 complaints, Marcus repeated. And yet, Dr. Pierce has faced no disciplinary action, no suspensions, no reductions in privileges, nothing, because this hospital prioritized revenue over patient safety. Victoria Lawson looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. "Mr. Thompson," one of the board members, an older white man named Gerald Hutchins, spoke up. "While these allegations are concerning, we need to be careful about jumping to conclusions. Dr. Pierce is one of our most experienced cardiac surgeons. His surgical outcomes are excellent." "For white patients," Marcus said coldly. "Pull the data." I did. Dr. Pierce's mortality rate for white patients is 1.2%. For black patients, it's 4.8%, 4 times higher. That's not a coincidence. That's systemic racism masquerading as medical care. The room fell silent. Dr. Pierce's lawyer cleared his throat. "Mr. Thompson, correlation doesn't equal causation. There could be many factors." "Don't," Marcus said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Don't you dare try to spin this. I'm a statistician. I know how data works, and this data is clear. Dr. Pierce provides substandard care to black patients, sometimes through negligence, sometimes through outright refusal, and this hospital has enabled him for a decade." He turned to Victoria. "As board chairman, I'm recommending immediate termination of Dr. Raymond Pierce. I'm also recommending a full external audit of our hospital's treatment of minority patients. And I'm recommending that we self-report to the Department of Health and Human Services for investigation of civil rights violations. Mr. Thompson, Victoria said carefully, if we self-report, we could lose federal funding. We could face massive fines. The hospital should be held accountable, Marcus said. We failed our patients. We failed our community. We prioritized one surgeon's ego and our revenue stream over people's lives. That ends today. Dr. Pierce finally spoke, his voice shaking with suppressed rage. This is a witch hunt. I've dedicated my life to saving lives. I've performed thousands of surgeries. I've trained dozens of residents. And now you're going to destroy my career because of one mistake? One mistake. Marcus turned to face him. You left me to die. You saw a black man in pain and decided I wasn't worth your time. That's not a mistake. That's who you are. I didn't know you were the board chairman, and that's supposed to make it better? Marcus's voice rose, and he winced at the pain in his chest. Eric put a hand on his shoulder, steadying him. You would have let me die if I was a janitor, or a construction worker, or a homeless man. The only reason you care now is because I have power, because I can hurt you. But what about all the patients who didn't have power? What about the ones who died because you decided they weren't worth saving? Dr. Pierce had no answer. Marcus turned back to the board. I'm calling for a vote. All in favor of terminating Dr. Raymond Pierce's employment and medical privileges, effective immediately. 11 hands went up. 1 abstention, Gerald Hutchins, who looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Motion passes, Marcus said. Dr. Pierce, you're fired. Security will escort you from the building. Dr. Pierce stood up, his face red. This isn't over. I'll sue for wrongful termination. You'll do nothing, Marcus said. Because if you sue, I'll countersue for medical malpractice, negligence, and civil rights violations. And I'll win. You have 10 minutes to clean out your office. If you're still here after that, you'll be arrested for trespassing. Security officers appeared at the door. Dr. Pierce looked around the room, searching for an ally, but found none. Even his lawyer was gathering his papers, clearly ready to distance himself from this disaster. Dr. Pierce walked out, his career in ruins, his reputation destroyed. And Marcus Thompson sat at the head of the table, exhausted, in pain, but satisfied. Justice had been served. The firing of Dr. Raymond Pierce made national news within 24 hours. Prominent cardiac surgeon fired after refusing to treat hospital board chairman. Racist doctor nearly kills patient, turns out patient was his boss. North Carolina hospital investigates decade of discrimination allegations. The story went viral. The video footage from the ER, recorded by security cameras and leaked by a sympathetic nurse, showed Dr. Pierce dismissing Marcus's symptoms, refusing to run tests, and walking out while Marcus lay dying on a gurney. The public outrage was swift and brutal. Dr. Pierce's social media accounts were flooded with hate. His home address was leaked. Protesters gathered outside his house. Within a week, the North Carolina Medical Board opened an investigation. Within 2 weeks, they suspended his medical license pending a formal hearing. But Marcus wasn't satisfied with just firing Dr. Pierce. He wanted systemic change. He hired a team of independent medical investigators to review every patient case Dr. Pierce had handled over the past 10 years. What they found was horrifying. Over the course of his career at Riverside Memorial, Dr. Pierce had been the attending physician for 47 patient deaths. Of those 47, 32 were Black or Latino patients. The investigators identified at least 12 cases where Dr. Pierce had delayed treatment, refused to order appropriate tests, or provided substandard care. And in every one of those cases, the patient was a person of color. 3 of those patients had died. Marcus sat in his home office reading the reports, his hands shaking. 3 people. 3 families who had lost loved ones because a doctor decided their lives weren't worth saving. He picked up the phone and called the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of North Carolina. "This is Marcus Thompson. I need to speak to someone about filing federal civil rights charges against a doctor who's been practicing discriminatory medicine for a decade." 6 months later, Dr. Raymond Pierce stood in federal court facing criminal charges. The charges were severe: deprivation of rights under color of law, medical fraud, and 3 counts of criminally negligent homicide. The prosecution's case was overwhelming. They had the data showing disparate outcomes. They had testimony from nurses and residents who had witnessed Dr. Pierce's discriminatory behavior. They had the video from Marcus's case, and they had the families of the 3 patients who had died. Mrs. Angela Williams testified about her husband, who had died of a treatable heart condition after Dr. Pierce refused to admit him to the hospital, claiming he was exaggerating his symptoms. Mr. Jamal Harris testified about his mother, who had died after Dr. Pierce delayed her emergency bypass surgery by 18 hours, saying she was stable enough to wait. Ms. Rosa Mendez testified about her son, who had died of complications after Dr. Pierce performed a rushed, substandard surgery and then refused to see him during his post-operative recovery. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of the families crying. Dr. Pierce's defense attorney tried to argue that these were unfortunate medical outcomes, but not crimes. He tried to argue that Dr. Pierce had made clinical judgment calls that, in hindsight, were wrong, but weren't criminal. The jury didn't buy it. After 3 days of deliberation, they came back with a verdict: guilty on all counts. Dr. Raymond Pierce was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. His medical license was permanently revoked. He was ordered to pay $10 million in restitution to the families of his victims. As he was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs, he looked at Marcus Thompson, who sat in the gallery watching. "I hope you're happy," Dr. Pierce said bitterly. Marcus stood up, walking toward him until they were face to face. "I'm not happy," Marcus said quietly. "3 people are dead because of you. Dozens more were harmed. Families were destroyed. No, I'm not happy. But I'm satisfied that you'll finally face consequences for what you've done." Dr. Pierce was led away, and Marcus walked out of the courtroom into the sunlight. Marcus Thompson didn't stop with Dr. Pierce's conviction. He used his position as board chairman to completely overhaul Riverside Memorial Hospital. He implemented mandatory bias training for all medical staff. He created an independent patient advocacy office to investigate complaints of discrimination. He hired a chief diversity officer to review treatment outcomes and identify disparities. He also established the Williams Harris Mendez Patient Safety Fund, named after the 3 patients who had died under Dr. Pierce's care, which provided free legal assistance to patients who believed they'd been victims of medical discrimination. But Marcus's biggest legacy was the legislation he helped pass. Working with state legislators, Marcus helped draft the Patient Protection and Accountability Act, a law that required North Carolina hospitals to publicly report treatment outcomes broken down by race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status. The law also created a state-level medical discrimination task force to investigate patterns of discriminatory care and hold doctors and hospitals accountable. The bill passed the state legislature with bipartisan support and was signed into law by the governor. At the signing ceremony, Marcus was invited to speak. "6 months ago, I nearly died because a doctor looked at me and saw only the color of my skin," Marcus began, his voice strong now, fully recovered from his heart attack. "That doctor assumed I was drug-seeking. He assumed I was faking my symptoms. He assumed I wasn't worth his time, and he nearly killed me." He paused, looking out at the assembled lawmakers, doctors, and advocates. "But I'm one of the lucky ones. I survived. I had resources. I had power. I had the ability to fight back. But what about the people who don't have those advantages? What about the patients who die because they're dismissed, ignored, or given substandard care based on their race?" He held up a folder. This folder contains the names of 47 patients who died under Dr. Pierce's care over the past 10 years. 47. 32 of them were Black or Latino. At least 12 of those deaths were preventable. 3 of them are being prosecuted as homicides. The room was silent. This isn't just about one bad doctor, Marcus continued. This is about a system that enables discrimination, a system that prioritizes profits over patients, a system that looks the other way when people die because they're poor or black or not worth the trouble. He gestured to the signed legislation on the governor's desk. This law won't fix everything, but it's a start. It shines a light on disparities. It creates accountability. It tells doctors and hospitals that if you provide discriminatory care, you will be caught, you will be investigated, and you will face consequences. He stepped back from the podium to thunderous applause. Epilogue. 3 years later, Dr. Raymond Pierce sat in his prison cell at the Federal Correctional Institution in Butner, North Carolina. He'd served 3 years of his 15-year sentence, and he had 12 more to go. He'd lost everything: his career, his reputation, his wealth, most of which had gone to paying restitution to his victims' families. His wife had divorced him. His children refused to speak to him. He spent his days working in the prison library and attending mandatory therapy sessions where counselors tried to make him confront his racism. He still didn't think he'd done anything wrong. In his mind, he was a victim. A good doctor destroyed by political correctness and a vindictive board chairman who had it out for him. But every once in a while, late at night when he couldn't sleep, he thought about Angela Williams's husband, about Jamal Harris's mother, about Rosa Mendez's son. And he wondered if maybe, just maybe, he had been wrong. Marcus Thompson stood in the lobby of Riverside Memorial Hospital, looking at the wall of photos commemorating the hospital's history. There was a new edition, a plaque that read, "In memory of those we failed, Williams, Harris, Mendez, and countless others who deserved better care. We commit to doing better. We commit to treating every patient with dignity, compassion, and the highest standard of medical excellence. Never again." Below the plaque were photos of the 3 patients who had died, smiling and full of life. Marcus touched the plaque gently, then walked to the cardiac wing, where Dr. Amanda Chen was waiting. "Mr. Thompson," Dr. Chen greeted him warmly. "How are you feeling?" "Good," Marcus said. "Great, actually. Clean bill of health from my cardiologist." "I'm glad. Are you here for the ceremony?" "Wouldn't miss it." They walked to the newly renovated cardiac care unit, funded by a $15 million donation from Marcus, where a ribbon-cutting ceremony was about to begin. The unit was state-of-the-art, equipped with the latest technology and staffed by doctors and nurses who had undergone extensive bias training. But more importantly, it was named the Dr. Amanda Chen Center for Equitable Cardiac Care, honoring the woman who had saved Marcus's life and who now led the hospital's efforts to eliminate racial disparities in healthcare. As Marcus cut the ribbon, he thought about how far they'd come. The hospital had released its first public report on treatment outcomes, showing significant improvements in care for minority patients. Complaints of discrimination had dropped by 60%. Patient satisfaction scores had increased across the board. There was still work to do. Systemic racism didn't disappear overnight, but they were making progress. And that was something worth celebrating. If you're still watching, I want to thank you for sticking with this story. Stories like this matter because they shine a light on injustices that happen every single day in hospitals, clinics, and doctors' offices across this country. Medical racism is real. It costs lives, and it needs to end. If this story moved you, please do 3 things. First, hit that like button. It tells YouTube to show this video to more people. Second, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. We post stories like this every week, stories about accountability, justice, and people fighting back against discrimination. Third, share this video. Share it with medical professionals. Share it with people who've experienced discrimination in healthcare. Share it with anyone who needs to know that change is possible. And if you or someone you love has experienced medical discrimination, document it, report it, file complaints with your state medical board. Contact patient advocacy organizations. Don't let it be swept under the rug, because silence enables abuse, and we're done being silent. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Dr. Raymond Pierce served 12 years in federal prison. Upon release, he was permanently banned from practicing medicine. He now works as a medical billing clerk and is required to attend monthly counseling sessions on implicit bias. Dr. Amanda Chen became chief of cardiology at Riverside Memorial and has published groundbreaking research on racial disparities in cardiac care. She's testified before Congress 3 times on healthcare equity. Marcus Thompson served 2 more terms as hospital board chairman, then retired to focus on healthcare advocacy. His foundation has donated over $100 million to expand access to cardiac care in underserved communities. The 3 families, Williams, Harris, Mendez, used their restitution payments to establish scholarship funds for minority students pursuing medical degrees. Riverside Memorial Hospital is now recognized as a national leader in equitable healthcare, with a 98% patient satisfaction rating across all demographic groups. The Patient Protection and Accountability Act has been adopted by 14 other states and inspired federal legislation requiring Medicare/Medicaid providers to report treatment outcomes by race. Medical impact nationwide. 847 doctors investigated for discriminatory care patterns. 127 medical licenses suspended or revoked, 43 hospitals placed under consent decrees for civil rights violations, patient mortality disparities decreased by 23% in states with reporting laws. Marcus's heart? Still strong. He runs marathons now and jokes that Dr. Pierce gave him the kick in the chest he needed to start taking care of himself. Justice was served. Lives were saved. Change happened.